Hey folks, it's Johnny Keeley here, welcome to the channel. A little while ago I created a new Instagram account that's getting absolutely huge proportional reach in the hashtags. This means a lot of people are seeing my posts through the hashtags. So let's talk about how and why I did that, and then how you can apply that to your account to get the same kind of results. So firstly, niche. One thing you'll notice about this account is about a very specific subject. So I'm a photographer, specifically an interiors photographer, and within that, I specialize in cabins and other kind of adventurous, luxurious spaces. These kind of images don't always belong on my main Instagram account, so I decided to make one specifically for those kinds of images. So you'll notice that my grid looks a lot like the top posts in lots of these different hashtags that I'm using. And this is a great way to figure out what niche you're in. So there are lots of reasons why you might want to post within a particular niche or create content around a particular niche, mostly being that it makes it easier for you to figure out the best hashtags and the best way of targeting your content, which we'll get onto in a minute. And secondly, it makes it easier for someone to follow you because they understand what you're going to be creating and they understand what they're going to get when they hit the follow button. I'm not going to go deep into how hashtags work. I've got a video for that. I'll leave that in the description. I'm going to talk about how I'm coming at this from two different angles specifically for this account. I'm thinking about the people who are already following the hashtags that I'm using. So that is, people who are interested in cabins, interiors photography, that sort of thing, and this kind of cabin culture. So I need to make sure that my content matches the content within that hashtag, which we've already talked about. The second thing I need to think about with hashtags is people who would find my content useful. So I'm actually using a lot of kind of UK staycations, UK holidays, those kind of hashtags for people that might be browsing it or people that are following it looking for holiday inspiration. So as I said, I'm coming at this from two angles. I'm looking for people who are already interested in my content from a kind of cultural point of view, and then I'm looking for people who don't know anything about my content, but they would find it useful if they're looking for inspiration for their holidays or their getaways, that sort of thing. Now, the next quick point in this very much relates to what I just talked about is I can't just target my content at people who are looking for holidays. I actually have to frame my content as useful. So for example, if you look on my profile, I'm very clear that I'm providing inspiration for people who are looking for these kind of adventurous, these different types of holidays. Even though I'm not a travel blogger or anything like that, this content is actually very useful for someone who's looking for that kind of holiday that's a bit different. So what happens when I frame my content and my profile that way is that people will be in that mindset when they're looking at my content. They might be more likely to look at the different types of content, really read into the captions to try and find the places that they find most exciting for their holidays. This also means they're more likely to hit the save button and add it to a collection where maybe they have a collection called holiday inspiration or something like that. So I'm not simply targeting people who might find my content useful, I'm telling them why my content is useful. Now, the other thing we need to talk about is content. This is important and a lot of people overlook this. Your content needs to be at least of a high enough quality to compete against the other posts on Instagram. I don't like to think of it as actual competing, but from an algorithm point of view, your content is competing against other content. So I'm not saying it needs to be better, I'm just saying it needs to look similar, feel similar, or at least tick all the same boxes. And from my point of view as a kind of interiors photographer, I have two sets of people. I have people who are interested in the photography and the kind of edit of my photos, and I have people who are interested in the actual space itself. Now, for those people, it's probably not that interesting for them to know about the photography, they just need to be able to see it and understand it. But for the photography people, it is important that my content is good. So I have to keep my game up and I have to keep improving and making good content. So in short, I'm just saying keep an eye on your content, keep working on that. And this doesn't have to be photography. If you're a poet, for example, your caption could be your main content. Just keep an eye on it, keep proud of it, and make sure that you're producing content that you enjoy. Now, there are a couple of other factors that I think we need to talk about as to why I could be getting exceptional reach on this account. Is it proportional, for example? Is there, because there's only 250 followers, it's a bit easier for it to get a high percentage because it doesn't need that much reach. But one thing I will say is that the reach on this account as an actual number of people in the hashtags is often higher than my 12,000 follower account, my main account. So I think we can kind of put to rest that myth that Instagram does not help small accounts, it only looks after the big accounts. Another factor could be that it's a new account and Instagram could be boosting my posts to get me hooked on Instagram at the very start. But we are 12 posts in, so I would have expected to see a dip by now. Could it be because I have a main account and I'm boosting it through that? I do occasionally share some of those posts to my stories on my main account, but I don't think that would have that much of an effect on my hashtags. One thing I will say though is that the people who have decided to follow me on my Cabins account, that could be some of you guys watching, that you guys will know me better, so you will be more engaged than the average person with 250 followers on Instagram. So that is a bit of a factor, but I don't think it's a very big one. Another interesting factor is I have been posting exclusively from something called Insist. This is not sponsored. This is just a way that I post from my desktop PC because all my photos are on there and I find it much easier to do it that way. And there is a bit of a hashtag storage thing on that. If you want to see that video, I'll leave a link to it in the description. It's quite interesting. It's just about posting from your desktop. So how does this help you with your account? Let's talk about some of the takeaways from this video that you can apply to your posts. So one of the first things that you can do is look to see whether the hashtags that you're using and the posts that you're creating are within a particular niche. So a good way to do this is to look at your grid and then compare that to the top posts in some of the main hashtags that you're using, much like I did with my grid versus one of the cabin culture hashtags. The next thing you can do is look at the hashtags that you are using and then start to think about who would be following those hashtags and see whether your content actually works for those people. So for example, somebody following UK holidays or UK staycations, it's very likely that they're looking for a holiday, and therefore the content that I'm creating is useful for those kinds of people, and that means it's a good hashtag for me to be using. And leading on from that, is your content helpful in some way? There are ways of creating content that is helpful without creating educational content. And I think I gave a good example there, is that I'm posting content of photos that I've taken that would be useful to people looking for adventurous and interesting holidays in the UK. So see if you can find a way to make your post useful to people in some way. I wouldn't stress out about that too much, but it is something that you can do to make your post just that little bit more captivating. And then there are your hashtags. Are they small enough? Are you competing against the biggest accounts on Instagram without even knowing it? I have a whole video on hashtags that I'll leave in the description that you can watch after this one. Now there is more to the story. As I said, I'm not getting the same results on my main account as I am on this. So I'm going to continually investigate both of those accounts and see how I can kind of replicate some of the results I've got on this new account on my main account. So I'd be interested, let me know in the comments, what kind of hashtag reach are you getting on your account? I thought hashtag reach was down all across Instagram, so I was really surprised to see such good results from this new account. And if you found this video useful, hit the like button and you will probably enjoy the video that's on the screen right now. And if you are one of my subscribers, I will see you in the next video. Thanks very much.